Hi everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you one of our most practical interviews. We're talking to a lawyer and what really a startup and other health IT companies need. And our guest is Bill O'Toole. He's founder of O'Toole Law Group. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, John. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I mean, we go way back. We had a lot of fun experiences, even a trip to Dubai one
That's
time.
right.
That was an adventure. Right? So you have a breadth of experience, but it's over 10 years since you left Meditech, where you did a lot of work with Meditech in your past and founded O'Toole Law Group. So how has the experience been for you, kind of post Meditech?
It's been rewarding and interesting, challenging, all rolled into one. As a solo practitioner, I do have to do it all. So I have to do the marketing, the lawyering, and the bookkeeping. But it has been very rewarding. It's very little advertising, mostly word of mouth and reliance on the experience that I've brought, to the table in many, many instances. So, overall, I'm very happy with what's happened and that I've been representing entities in healthcare, be it a vendor or, provider hospital side.
Yeah, so it must be nice to work with a wide variety of companies rather than just one. Is that what the experience has been?
It is. It's been great. I mean, prior to O'Toole Law Group, it was just one client, and I learned a great deal. But then, as you incorporate different client types, be it a small physician practice or a extremely large hospital, and then vendors obviously range from big to little, and then there's a lot of interaction between the vendors, which has been a great and interesting piece of the business.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that there's so much contract work and legal work between vendors and partnerships, which we do a lot of in healthcare IT. So is that a lot of the work you do as well?
It is. Typically, if I'm working for a vendor, there would be customer contracts, but then, sure. They might have a distribution type agreement, resellers, or bringing in as an add-on, type situation. So it really has become super interesting. From that avenue, you could either be representing the large vendor or the small vendor. So the variables are extensive, but it's all good.
So what are some of those nuances between the small and the large? I mean, is there a prototypical thing that large vendors usually want overkill on their contracts, or is there some themes?
It can range. It's both small and large could have a real big set of requirements that they've developed. Not so much so with a smaller vendor or a startup vendor. They need to evolve to that point. But it can just the differences. And sometimes, it's the technology, what are they into and who would they need to partner with? That might drive then, their requirements, almost as a heads up. If it's the big vendor, they say, okay, so all the little ones we're going to bring in, we really got to get them all. This is not in a bad way, but, into a certain mold. So sure. We can, bring in this one and know that it works, with that model. And once we do the model, then it can be replicated.
Yeah. Have you seen some consistent needs or maybe themes from hospitals and even the vendor clients?
Well, HIPAA started in 1996.
Yeah.
And then, became reality in the early 2000s. Then high tech, developed on that. So, needs from the hospital side is definitely, these regulations, we must fall in line with A, B, C, D. Mm-hmm. From there, I've seen the theme with the hospitals of, this data is very important and valuable, and as you know, we've seen the High-Tech Act massage that you can't use data for remuneration without authorities. So the hospitals have learned, in a good way, the value of protecting the data because they must,
yeah.
And then in a good way, capitalizing on the data, as we
sure.
go forward. It's been a big new field, but it isn't really new. But.
Yeah. How about the startups? How do they benefit from working with someone like you?
That's been a really, really beneficial part of my practice and something that I really enjoy. Meditech was established when I got there, and I saw tremendous growth while I was there.
Sure.
But with a startup, you're at the ground floor.
You're creating
and
it again.
that can really some are very well prepared and they have, done their work, or they may have had a different company beforehand, so they bring their templates
So
and
they do
models
the
and say,
previous-
can we use this? And sometimes you can. And then you have the other ones that have, a great product, great idea, super marketer team together, and then they're like, oh, these guys are going to sign, and they have nothing.
They have no
So they're like,
contracts,
well,
no
maybe we can
agreement.
dust this off, and use that. So, the real reward with a startup is to come in and provide the value, the protection. I mean, job part A is to get them business, be fair, be protective, legally. And you got to do those together. I mean, you can protect, very hard, and then you don't get the business. So it's a real challenge. And then as you evolve with the company and they trust you more and more, they work you in, really as a member of the management team, and that's a big compliment.
Yeah, that has to be. And I think that is the challenge, is that, as a lawyer for a larger company, you're really more protective. But as a startup, you have to balance the protection with, if I'm too protective, I may lose the deal. Is that that kind of the nuance you have to work through?
And my approach is always, this is how I'm doing this. This is most protective for you, the vendor, so you don't lose your IP rights or your business.
Sure.
And then you might run into an issue where the hospital says, we're not going to sign off on that. And you have the startup saying, we need this big, contract with, big ABC Medical Center in a major metropolitan area. So then you're faced with weighing out the pros and cons for the client.
Right.
You can make a business decision. Here's the legal ramifications if you reject what they're asking, and here are the benefits for doing it your way, and help them to make the good business decision.
Yeah, I think many people don't realize that, working with a lawyer is really a risk management choice, isn't it?
True, yeah.
Especially as a startup.
Yeah, I mean, I could be absolutely right on the legal issue, and they lose the deal, and then they say, well, what help was he? Whereas if I didn't do the good job and they lost, an avenue to IP rights,
right,
then I'm not helping them.
Right. So it's an interesting balance for sure.
It is.
So what are some of the other insights and experiences you've had over the last almost 30 years?
Increased technology and efficiencies. Disk drives went from the size of a washing machine, down to this big.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've certainly seen a lot of that, and I've seen, approaches or methods occur, go away, and come back. For today we have software as a service. Well, 20 years ago, it was time sharing on computers in a computer room at the vendor.
Ah, that's interesting. So they didn't have software as a service, but they had the rental approach.
The rental, you could rent it, and the vendor would manage the machine for you.
Interesting.
So, and I think, hopefully with all the interoperability focus that's being, I don't mean in a bad way, but imparted upon, our industry. I think that's a very, very necessary theme and model that the industry needs to get to. Data standards, for instance, within the interoperability. Other industries do it already.
Yeah.
It can be done, and we need to get there.
And is that some of the important issues you see kind of for the future of health IT, interoperability?
I would say interoperability, I believe, will make everything better for everybody. That will take some kicking and screaming perhaps from certain vendors that, for certain reasons don't want to do that. I'm not necessarily knocking them, but I think, societally, and as we, try to improve our healthcare system, we need to. The other big thing, I think, is the situational awareness. And at first I was like, no, so what does that mean? As I dug into it, the best example would be ventilators during COVID. And, how many does a hospital have? If they have 27, how many work? There's levels of detail that need to be achieved in a very critical setting like that. Or someone may count a single ventilator as one, and that's correct, but can it be split and used 2 to 4 times, or separate uses?
Right.
And then how do you count that? So I would say the situational awareness and interoperability in the near future are the 2 very big themes for healthcare.
Well, and it feels like the interoperability has lots of legal questions, whether it's rights to data, whether it's protecting the privacy of the data. Are you seeing a lot of work in that regard as far as, who owns the data or other areas?
Not so much ownership, I would say.
Okay.
In that if it's a hospital, they say we own the data. And I think that the really smart ones might say, well, we don't own it, but as between us, we own it. You know, my opinion, I own my data no matter whose system it's in.
I own it, and the patient owns it, maybe.
The patient owns it, correct. You know, the data ownership, I would say more the data responsibility as opposed to ownership.
Yeah.
The hospital has the data, you know, in a certain environment, and then they want to get it to another company or a vendor, but in between they might have the vendor to do the API to make everything work. Well, is that in between vendor the business associate of the hospital or of the subcontractor to the ultimate target entity? So there's very, very complex issues there, and small companies sometimes just don't know. And unfortunately, you know, if they're faced with the, you know, the big vendor or the big hospital, they're okay, and off they go, and you know, sign it because that's what it needs. You know, they need to get the deal done. So there's a lot of heads up and needs on who's responsible.
Well, I think you just highlighted the epitome of a good lawyer, in my opinion. You corrected me from ownership to responsibility, and I think that's what makes a good lawyer.
Yeah.
It's the specific words and how they do it. So
That's
that
true.
was really a fascinating real-time example of kind of the work you do, I think.
Yeah, and you know, it does come down to the word sometimes and which one you're choosing, and that's, you know, in my opinion, you know, a fine craft to be able to do that, so that you know, 2 years, 4 years, however many years later, any lawyer, any executive could pick up the, you know, the piece of work and say, I get it, this is what it says, and the other side says, yep, that's what it says.
Exactly.
That's perfection.
That's lawyer ideal, right?
That's the goal.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you know, where can people learn more about O'Toole Law Group and the services you offer?
Yeah, I've got, my site lists all my services, o'toolelawgroup.com, and you know, I'm always eager to talk to people. You know, whether or not it leads to an engagement, I'm always willing to take a call and help out or make connections or, you know, refer off to another attorney if it's something I don't do. So.
Sure. Well, and I know you do a lot of work with accelerators, so you have that experience. You know, I know you personally, and know you're not going to just do it because you need work. You're going to do it because they need the service.
That's
awesome.
Definitely true. I'm always willing to help. Participation in accelerators is it's very rewarding. You know, as a judge, you know, helping to determine, you know, is this applicant, you know, ready for prime time?
Can they even legally do this?
And then working as a mentor and, you know, in an accelerator, often you see very little preparation only because they're just starting out, meaning preparation in terms of legal documents. I mean, none. They were working on the product and trying to get money, so that's why they're in the accelerator. And then mentorship hopefully helps them get a good jump start and, you know, and beginning.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sharing these
Thank you,
insights and perspectives, and thanks everyone for watching. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.